I'll mention too, Amy, I'd kind of vocalized this in the previous sessions too, but I'm very open if anybody has specific questions, if there's something that you're struggling with or something that you just didn't understand, like please feel free to reach out to me. I'll share my contact information again during the session. But yeah, feel free anytime to reach out. I'm happy to pitch in when I can.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. You have been fantastic of being available and accessible to all of us. So thank you for that. I do want to let you know that we did have some technical difficulties last month. And so, Ryan, again, speaking to how amazing you've been, our recording didn't work last month. And so Ryan went and completely recorded that content again for us. And we have now posted that on the AUCD website. And Anna has just put that in the chat so that you're able to access that. We'll make sure it's also included in email follow-ups so that everybody, if you're watching this recording, you're able to access that information that way as well. But we really do want to provide you with these tools and resources. And so technology is not always our friend, but we appreciate everyone's patience as we really work to navigate this and make this meaningful for all of you. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that CEDC has developed a Padlet to really provide an opportunity for all of us to be able to contribute different resources, things that we're using in creating accessible documents, presentations, PowerPoints, all of the different things that we're talking about for this year. So that has also just been put into the chat for you. This is something that we want to truly be a community resource. And so when we think about community, we think about not just AUCD, but all those that we impact and who are working with. And so if there's somebody that you know that you think would benefit from this, please feel free to share this on. They do not have to be active in CEDC to use these resources. Same with attending these. You don't have to be part of CEDC to attend this series. And so please go ahead and, again, use that resource, add things that you think are great that maybe aren't on there that others would benefit from. That's the beauty of, community. So, yeah, anything else, Miranda or Anna, that I'm forgetting to mention that I should before we jump into today?
I think you're good.
Awesome. Okay, Ryan, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Excellent. I think it's a really useful thing that I've been sharing with other folks, but I made this one specifically, and it was a lot of work. But I mean, I think it really does a good job of kind of communicating those things. And the thing about Word, and I mentioned this a few times on the last during our last presentation, the thing about using Word to create your accessible documents is everything's so templatable. So, like there are a whole ton of stuff. And that video I spent like over an hour, I mean, remediating a Word document. But once you've kind of done that once and then used it as a template, then the next time you don't have to think so much about those accessibility things, right? Because they're already baked in. And so by making those part of your templates and then part of your normal workflow, what seems overwhelming and seems like a lot of extra work, it's really not that bad. It's just, kind of building that into to the tools that you're using. Okay. Well, let's see. We can always come back and look at some questions later. Feel free, like I said, to interrupt or drop something in the chat if you'd like. But in the meanwhile, we will switch over and look at the PDF thing. Let's see. For some reason, I don't understand. Zoom does not let me share like my whole screen, so I have to keep switching back and forth between windows. All right. So, yeah, so we're going to take a look at fixing a file in Acrobat. The video that we shared from the previous session, I took the Word document that we created and then exported it as a PDF and went through and kind of checked things out and cleaned it up and got it ready for production. So that's an example that you can refer back to. And then also we're going to do the same thing. Like I said, I've got a document from Canva. Canva is notoriously horrible for putting out tagged accessible documents, but people love it, and it does make really pretty things. And honestly, their accessibility is a heck of a lot better than it was when they started. But yeah, it's a challenge that comes up often. Like people will bring that stuff to me at UK, and they'll say, "Hey, we built this canvas or this Canva thing, but we don't know how to make it accessible." So we'll take a look at that. Specifically, we'll look at some ways that we can look at and fix tagging problems that happen. So, and I'll talk a little bit more about like tagging and what exactly we mean there. We'll look at Adobe Preflight, which is built into Adobe Acrobat and is a super powerful tool that can fix a lot of accessibility problems in your document. And then last of all, we'll kind of run the document once we finished it through the PDF accessibility checker. It's an external tool and it's linked in the course handout. But what it does is it actually analyzes your PDF to make sure that it's compatible with the PDF accessibility standard. And then it kind of gives you feedback on that and helps you track down those little nitpicky accessibility things that you might not have caught otherwise. All right. So I am going to share something different. Okay, so are you seeing my volunteer flyer? Amy, yep, okay. So here we have just a PDF document. Like I said, I made this in Canva, and um, I wanted to show you a few strategies that you can use for editing and kind of fixing up a PDF. With the one that we were working on the last time, we had that Word source document. And so a Word file is super easy to go back in and edit. You can change things and tweak them and, kind of get it to spit out a much more accessible file that doesn't break everything. But when you're working with something like Canva, you get what you get, right? Or somebody might just send you a finished PDF file and they don't have a source file for it or whatever. So you need some tools in your toolbox to be able to fix up um, just whatever PDF randomness comes across your desk. So the biggest thing when we're talking about accessibility with a PDF is we want to look at the tag structure. Okay, so the tags are, so with your PDF, you have this really pretty graphic thing here, right? And it's got all these different elements. There's some big bold header text at the top, and then some smaller body text. There's some images. And from a visual standpoint, it's pretty, but the tags, the accessibility tags, are what kind of describes it to assistive technology. That could be a screen reader. It could be even the built-in read out loud function of Adobe Acrobat. I know a lot of students that I've worked with over the years like to use that. And lots of other kinds of like scrapers and stuff when you're using other programs to read PDFs, they kind of use that tag structure to figure out what's going on. On this particular one, we have got some tags over here, and it's sort of like a skeleton of what the document looks like. And so by looking in the tags panel, I can see just what the different elements are. So the first one that I can see that I have on this document is a figure. And in this case, that figure is actually the background behind this top part here. So it's got like, it looks like a piece of paper with like kind of torn edges. Um, and so, so I've got that tagged here, and then the different text elements are tagged as I scroll down through. So, yeah, it's not terrible because it does at least contain all of the elements that are on the page. And so, in fact, if I select just kind of the root up here at the top, I'll select the document. I can see that there's nothing that's like missing or left out. Everything that's in the document is highlighted, so that's a really good place to start. So yeah, so if I'm looking at a document like this, one of the first strategies I can use, so like what I expect is I expect hierarchical headings, and we talked about that with our Word document. But so like I expect it to start with a heading that's a level one heading. And in this case, it does. It has a level one heading that says volunteers. And then um, I expect any other headings that fall under that to be a heading level two, or if they fall under the two to be a three, and so on. So in this case, though, we've got this heading level one, which is volunteers, but that heading level one actually should be volunteers needed because it's one sentence and it is actually the heading, like the main topic of the document. So it's really easy to kind of fix that. In this case, they made needed heading level 2, which is weird and unnecessary. So to fix it, we can just grab the word needed that's inside of that header 2 tag and drag it into the heading level 1. Come on. Well, maybe we can. It's always good when the tech people have trouble doing these things because it makes everybody feel better. Okay. Um, but that's good because actually that gives me a chance to show a different strategy for that. So here I'm selecting this heading level 1, the volunteers tag, and then I'm just gonna highlight the word needed and the exclamation point. And then if I come over here and right click, then create tag from selection. Now I have taken that text that was there and kind of added it to the volunteers section. So now when I select this heading 1, it gives me volunteers needed, which is what I expected. Does that make sense? Is everybody following along so far? Yep. Okay. Everybody I can see on video is following along so far. So now that I have needed up there, I really don't need this second needed tag here, and it shouldn't be a heading level 2 anyway. So I'm just going to delete it. There we go. So now I have my heading and it's properly tagged. Then after the heading, I have a paragraph tag, which is exactly what I would expect. And it says things, we need your help to make a difference, join the UM Lunch Ladies and contribute something meaningful to the campus community. But that's all listed here as a paragraph, and that's exactly how my screen reader would interact with it. Okay, then the next thing I have is a figure, and in this case, it is the picture here of someone handing a box of food um, to a one of the recipients. And so in this case, we have this figure, but it doesn't really add context to the document. Like it's not bringing anything new. Like if I was a person who couldn't see this, there's nothing from this image that I need to have to understand the document, right? So in other words, it's just a visual kind of things, which makes it decorative. So we can actually get rid of that out of our tags panel because again, assistive technology doesn't really need to interact with or do anything about this. If it was an important image, then we could right click on the figure tag and go to properties and put in some alternative text. We talked about alt text last time and describing your images. So we could do that if it was something that was important that our viewers needed to see. But in this case, since it's decorative, what we can do is I'm just going to right click on the image and then I'm going to change it to an artifact. I'll just hit OK. And so that removed it out of the figure tag, and it actually completely removed that tag from the document. So now if assistive technology comes through here looking, it's not going to see that image at all, which is totally fine because, like I said, it doesn't really add anything to the PDF to have that particular image there. That makes sense? We good? Okay, yeah, a little bit, mostly. Okay. I'm watching head nods on the screen. Okay, so we got rid of that decorative figure. Then we actually have two more. So the first one that I mentioned up here at the top, where it's like the torn paper background. Again, adding absolutely nothing to have that represented in the document. And same thing down here at the bottom with the torn paper background. So I'm going to do the same thing with both of those, and I am going to select them, right click, and change them to artifacts. And then now that those figure tags are empty, I can just delete them. And there we go. So now we got rid of a bunch of unnecessary stuff that a screen reader might try to read, or, again, other assistive technology that has nothing to do with the purpose of the document. So it doesn't really need to be there. All right, so then the next tag that's listed over here in the tags says opportunities include. And so to me, that very much does feel like it's a heading, right? Because it's kind of introducing the list of possible opportunities to serve. So yeah, I feel like that should be a heading, but it automatically tagged it as a heading level 3. And so we can't use a heading level 3 in that case because we don't have a heading level 2, right? So we can't skip. So we can't go from 1 straight to 3. So we need this to be a heading level 2. So I can fix that really quickly. I just go to properties, and then here at the top it's got a heading level 3, and I can just change that to heading level 2. There we go. And then same thing down here. Okay, so now what we get into is we have these opportunities for ways that you can help out, right? And so the way that Canva tagged them was as headings, and it did that based on the fact that they are like all caps and they're bolded, they kind of look like a heading. So that's what it used to decide that they were headings. But I don't think that they are in this case because there's not really information, underneath of them or anything like that. What this looks like to me is opportunities include is kind of the heading, and then these opportunities are a list, right? So it's a list of 3 possible opportunities. Unfortunately, Canva didn't tag it that way, and making lists in Adobe can be daunting. So, but I'm going to step you through it, and it's really not that complicated, but it's something that comes up often with exactly this kind of thing, and so you end up having to manually tag lists sometimes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select in the document. I'm just going to right click, and I'm going to create a new tag. And in this case, I want my tag to be a list. There we go. So now I have this empty list here. And the way that lists are structured inside of a PDF is that you have a list, and then within the list, you have what are called list item elements. So I'm going to just go to new tag, and I'm going to create 3 list item elements. There we go. And then I will place those inside of the list, just like that. Okay, so now when my assistive technology, screen reader, whatever, approaches this in the document, it's going to say list with 3 items because it knows that there's a list and it knows that there are 3 item tags in it. And then that way I can scroll through those things and I know exactly how many list items there are and what I'm listing for. Then we actually need to include the content in the list items. So we don't want these to be headings again because that doesn't really make sense with what's going on here. So I am going to change those from heading level 4 tags. I'm going to just select them and I'm going to properties. And then instead of heading level 4, we're going to make those a list item body. So that's another requirement that Adobe has is that lists work like this. So you got a list, then a list item, and then inside of the list item, you have a list item body. So then we just have to drag those inside of those list items. And just like that, we have a perfectly tagged list that's going to be read easily by assistive technology, and it's going to understand that all of those are list items and not headings at all. Um, in the meantime, we Canva added a couple of more decorative figures, and these are these like divider lines that are here on the page. Again, they're not adding anything. They don't really have a purpose as far as the tag structure of the document goes. So I'm going to select both of those, and I'm going to make them artifacts. And then we can delete those figure tags. There we go. And then down here at the bottom, we have a contact us at and then the contact information. So I do feel like contact us at makes sense as a heading, and they have it here as a heading level 3. And so since we have a heading 2, then a heading 3 would be information that falls within that. But the contact information is not really part of the opportunities include, right? So we want to make that instead of a heading level 3, we want to change that to a heading level 2 because that makes more sense in the document because it's a totally separate section from the opportunities include. So there we go. We have a heading level 2. And then I'm going to drag that paragraph of the contact information down below that heading so that you read the heading first and then the paragraph. And then just like that, we have a perfect PDF document. Okay, so that was taking something that we got from Canva, and now it is completely accessible and robust and ready to be shared with folks as far as the content goes. So that was kind of manually tagging it. Another option that you have besides going through and doing it the hard way, the Acrobat does have a function called auto tag. And so I'm just right clicking or I'm just selecting at the top of the accessibility tags panel, there's a options menu. And then auto tag document is near the top. And when you do that, it completely clears all of the tags from your document and kind of restructures it. So in this case, that was a really bad idea because when I did that, it saw this as just one big picture. It didn't really pick up on the elements that are in that picture. And so, yeah, so what we ended up with is literally everything that is in the document is just tagged in an image. So a lot of times, especially if you're dealing with something that comes from like Word, where it's already got a built-in structure, that auto tag document will save you so much time because you don't have to manually do it like we just did. But with the auto tag feature, sometimes, especially with Canva or really decorative stuff, you don't always get the result that you're expecting. And I should have saved that because it overwrote my tags.
Could
But
you
anyway,
undo it or no? I was just gonna like,
it's not letting me. No, I was,
uh,
but that's okay.
that's
There is one more option for tagging your own document if you do have to tag it manually, and that's to use what's called the reading order tool, reading order panel in Acrobat. So I'm just gonna again select that options tab at the top of accessibility tags, and then I'll go down and select reading order from that menu. And that gives me this little box here. It's covered the entire page with this figure tag, right? And so, and that's kind of what it was using as our entire tag structure. And in this case, I'm just going to delete the whole page figure if it will let me. It'll let me. Maybe, come on. Oh, that's not nice. Okay, I'm going to click the clear page structure down here at the bottom. That deletes all of my tags out of the document. And then again, I can manually tag things really quickly. The way I'll do that with the reading order panel is I will just highlight the thing that I need to tag. Hmm, interesting. I can see Chelsea Bocard is laughing at me because she knows this is the kind of stuff that just happens when you're doing this. Okay, yeah. So because of that figure, it is that is overlaying the page. It's not recognizing the text in this case. Um, I'm going to do, and this is something you probably won't do often, so but I'll explain what I'm doing. So I'm going into the content panel of Acrobat, which actually has like so the accessibility tags is the part of your document that you share with people that like explains what your document looks like. The content panel is like Acrobat's internal version of it. Like so this is what Acrobat sees and what Acrobat shares and it's what like if it's the instructions to open the PDF and actually display everything that's in it. So your tag structure might not exactly match this because, you know, again, we got rid of those decorative images and stuff, but all of those have to live inside of the content panel so that they show up on the page. I really want to get rid of that big figure that's covering the entire page though. So I'm going to just delete what I think is the right one. All right, let me try that. Okay, so then I'm going to go back to my accessibility tags and back to my reading order panel. There we go. So yeah, so I got rid of that big overlay and that's gonna happen. Oh, come on. I should have practiced that more. Okay.
Your needed was highlighted if you wanted to make that your heading one.
Yeah, but it wasn't actually highlighting the text. It was highlighting the like
Oh,
the
the
box.
box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do
Brian, when you
yeah.
highlighted it just now,
Yeah.
the needed, and it said recognize text, is that something you can like click on to like kind of override what it's doing right there? Does that,
So if I click on
what does that
recognize
mean?
text, like so okay, so if I have a completely untagged PDF, then
Mm,
Adobe uses what's called OCR, optical character recognition, to kind
okay.
of like try to figure out what that text means. And
Oh,
so when
got
I
it.
select that recognize text thing, all it does is kind of redirect it to OCR that text again to kind of
Okay.
check it out that way. So it's not directly related to the tags.
Got
But
it.
yeah,
Okay.
definitely a good catch. But yeah, see, I'm going to take this and I'm just going to, in the interest of time, I'm just going to revert it back to the last save state, which is where we started, I think. Come on. Okay. One moment, please. It's more fun when you have technical difficulties on the fly. Okay.
Say this is more realistic.
Exactly. Yeah. Welcome to my life every day. All right. Okay. There we go. Okay. So yeah. So now I've reverted it back to how it was before we started. Okay. Yeah, so it's worth trying the auto tag, but make sure that you save it first so you don't have to do it all again. I'm not going to go through and refix all of that stuff right now because there are a few other things that I would like to show you, but there we are. Okay. Um, Another important feature that we looked at when we were talking about the Word document was setting the document properties. Like we talked about setting the proofreading language and we talked about setting like the document title. So in order to do those things or check those things in Adobe Acrobat, you can pull up the document properties screen. To do that, you go to your menu and then document properties. You can also use the keyboard shortcut Control and D like dog. So I will pull up the document properties here. Okay. I just added a zoom window. Is that helpful? Like as to see it a little better? I know it's hard to see like my entire screen when I'm showing it. Do you guys see the overlaid like blown up
Yeah.
window? Okay. All right. Yeah, so here I can see the document title. So the file name just is volunteers needed poster.pdf, but the title I can set either here or again, if I was using Word, I could set it in Word and I can give a little bit more context. So where the file name just said volunteers needed poster, which is easy to scroll through and find if you're looking for a document, it's concise and descriptive. The title says UM Lunch Ladies Volunteer Flyer. So as I'm switching screens and stuff, you can see the tab up here says UM Lunch Ladies Volunteer Flyer. And so if I'm using a screen reader or something, that's what it reads as I switch to the PDF tab, as I switch to the Word document tab, and whatever. So, those setting that title is a way to kind of more accessibly let people know, what exactly it is they're looking at. But yeah, so I can check the title there. I can also come down to the bottom and see information about my document. So I can see that it was produced by Canva, so I know where it came from. It does say that it is a tagged PDF, which means it has accessibility tags. That doesn't mean they're right, but it means it has them. And then, yeah, I can come to the top. Um, I'm going to click on the Advanced tab here at the top, and then near the bottom of the page, I have the reading options, which has the language for my document. So in this case, it's set to English because I did that over in Microsoft Word. But yeah, making sure that you have your language set to the proper language tells assistive technology, how to approach it. It also helps with like your setting your spell checkers so that you don't get weird notices about stuff. Um, So like let's say for example that I had down at the bottom of this document I had contact Jenna blah 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 and then se habla español because Jenna just happens to speak Spanish and so if you wanted to contact her like just so you know ahead of time se habla español. So I set the document language to English but I can set just that se habla español to be Spanish. And then when my screen reader reads it, it's going to read it with a Spanish accent, and like kind of like have it in more of in that context so that it makes sense to hear it that way instead of if you just left it as English, it would just read it as though you were in Appalachian, Kentucky, and it would be like "Se habla español" or something, So by changing the language there, you make sure that it's reading it properly. So, but again, in this case, my main document language is English, and that's what I was checking on up there. Okay, so we have this document, and again, we unfixed a bunch of stuff. But so the next step that we're going to look at is how to check and see how accessible it is in its current form. So I'm going to switch over to, I'm going to switch windows again. Um, Okay, so now you should see on the screen the PDF accessibility checker, or PAC is what it's called. So the PAC tool it automates accessibility checking in your PDF. All you have to do is just feed it your PDF document, and then it will go through and check all of the accessible problems that might be there, and kind of help you redirect and get through and solve them so that you're meeting those accessibility requirements. So in this case, I have it set to already set to that volunteer flyer. I'm going to refresh it to see what the latest update is. Okay, so yeah, so you can see I do have some X's here. So I am not compliant with the Universal Access PDF format rules. I'm also not compliant with the WCAG, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines rules. And so that means this is not an accessible PDF. But down here below that, it explains to me what's wrong and how I can fix it. So in my case, I've got some problems with alternative descriptions, so like alt text, and then also with some metadata issues. And if I go across over here, you can see, so the alternative descriptions, I've got 5 issues with alt text, and then just the one metadata thing. With PAC, I'll click on results in detail at the bottom. And let's see, that gives me the results in detail. Let me share that. How are we doing? Is everybody totally lost yet? Do you all see the results in detail? It's a big window that's like the full screen that's got a whole bunch of little checks and X's.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Okay. Okay. I couldn't tell if it was tying that to the PDF accessibility checker box or if that was a whole another screen to share. All right. So for my alternative descriptions, if I just click the drop down next to that X, then it shows me that I have several figures that are missing alt text. So you'll remember as we went through, I was kind of artifacting out those decorative images and not adding alt text to them. And that's what it's finding here. So it's saying that you didn't put any alt text for the paper background image there, the food box handoff, and the other paper image, and then those 2 um, um, decorative separators. So yeah, since I don't have alternative text for them, it's flagging those because the PDF standard for accessibility requires that I have accessible text for any meaningful image. So I'm going to come back over here and just real quick, I'm going to get rid of all of those unnecessary decorative images. So I'm getting rid of those separators, and then I am getting rid of the paper images and the food handoff box. So again, I'll select all of those images and then right click, and I'm going to change the tag to artifact, and they're gone. Okay. For a quick cleanup, I'm going to right click on the part here and go to delete empty tags. There we go. So I got rid of all of those empty figure tags. I'll save it. And then switch back to pack. Refresh. And actually, this is looking at a different version because I switched when I deleted all the tags. Let me put it to the right place. There we go. So now we're on the one that I'm fixing. Okay. Yeah. So now the alternative descriptions, we no longer have any errors on that, which is good. In fact, it's got the little circle with the slash through it because there are no alternative descriptions required in this document because it doesn't have any images that are tagged. Last up on this one to fix it, we have the metadata. So one of the requirements for accessible PDF is that it has to be marked as an accessible PDF. And so the metadata error that we're getting is because we don't have the PDF universal identifier set. And so the easiest way for us to set that in Adobe, God, I wish I could share my screen instead of having to switch. Okay. Mm. Okay, so in Adobe, I mentioned at the very beginning that we were going to talk about something called pre-flight that's built into Adobe. And so that's what I'm going to show now. So I have a pre-flight shortcut set up here, but you can access pre-flight by going to all tools and then either compress a PDF or let's see, what's the other one? Prepare for printing, I think. Something I don't ever use. Print production. There we go. But yeah, so either way, we're just going to pull up the pre-flight tools. And pre-flight is able to automatically do a lot of stuff to improve your PDF. Um, sorry, it's pulling out. It's taking a second. There we go. Okay. So let's see. Are you seeing my pre-flight window? Can you? It's like a pop-up. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. So yeah, so pre-flight has profiles and what they call fix-ups. And so these fix-ups are easy things that you can do to your document to fix stuff that might be a problem. There's a built-in one called tagging fix-ups. And so I actually have a slightly modified version of that we use at HDI, that I added a few extra checks to, and I will upload that to the course handout so that you all can download it and use it. I also have instructions on how to like install it and work with it, so I'll include all of that too. I'll get that up right after this is over. But yeah, so in this case, I'm just going to hit my tagging fix-ups, and it's going to ask me where I would like to save it. Okay. And then it is going to go through automatically and check a whole bunch of stuff. So it fixes the tab order so that if someone is using their keyboard to navigate my document, it puts everything in the right order based on the way I have my tags set. And then it sets that PDF UA, that PDF Universal Accessibility tag to turn it on. So basically it fixes that metadata issue that we had. And so just like that, we should be good. I'll close it and save it. And then I'll switch back over to pack tool. And I'm going to click this refresh button, which just has it reevaluate the document since we've saved it and made changes. And now I have the check mark next to the PDF Universal Access, which means this is a perfectly accessible PDF. I've met all of the WCAG requirements, and so this thing is completely ready to ship. There is a third tab at the top of Pack called Quality, and there are things here that you can totally fix. They're not required to be fixed for your document to be accessible from a legal standpoint, from a usability standpoint. But there are things that you can do that to just make it a little bit more accessible. So in this case, it's got one tag text consists of only white space. So somewhere I've got a tag on my document that just has like a space in it and it doesn't really have like there's no letters, like there's no content to it. So it means there's like an empty paragraph kind of thing, and I could just delete that. And yeah, so if I did that, then that would make it actually completely perfect. But okay. So let's see. Okay, but so yeah, so that's I mean that's kind of your basics of tagging a PDF. I showed you a couple of different ways to do that. Showed you how to break it all with the auto tag feature. And we went through and kind of manually fixed the tags. You'll notice that the PDF accessibility checker let me create that PDF, save it, and send it out as completely accessible. But you'll remember that that was without the changes that I made to the tags, right? So that list is not tagged as a list; it's tagged as three headings. There's the heading structure where you've got the word volunteers as a heading level 1, then needed as a heading level 2, because I didn't refix any of that. So it allows it and it's accessible because it checks all the boxes, even though it's not really a very usable document because someone who is trying to go through and like surf the headings and stuff, they're not going to find things in the right structure. So that's why it is important to kind of go through and get that part fixed before you do the final checks with the PDF accessibility checker. Okay. I haven't stopped talking for 45 minutes. Does anybody have questions that they would like to throw out? I don't know.
There are some questions in the chat box. And do you want me to read them out to you?
Fantastic. Yeah, let's do it.
So if we need to meet WCAG 2.1 AA, then do we only need to look at that tab in PAC?
Yeah, so as long as you're just looking to meet WCAG, then technically you just as long as that WCAG tab is good, then you're good. So there was a stage in there where I had fixed. Oh, we had fixed everything, and the only thing that was missing was that metadata tag that indicated that it was a universally accessible PDF. And so when we got to that stage, I met all of the WCAG requirements, but I didn't quite meet all of the PDF universal access requirements because it needed that tag on. So yeah, if you're just meeting WCAG, then that doesn't really matter whether it's got that tag on it or not. But using pre-flight, that was a super quick, simple fix. And so now it meets WCAG as well as Universal PDF standard. So it's more accessible and it's going to be more robust in the future because it's got all of that extra information that it needs around it. But yeah, that's a great question.
Then do you have examples or tips about labeling form fields in PDF?
That's another hour all by itself. Um, um, so I will say that um, when it comes to using form fields, let me get over to um, so yeah, for anyone who's following at home, with Adobe, you can add form fields that let you do fillable PDF. So, like, you could have like guided notes that you gave to a student, or just like any kind of a form that you were filling in, an application, something like that. So, when you're adding form fields, they can get a little difficult. Everything about Adobe Acrobat is a little difficult. Anytime you're adding new content in Acrobat, it's a pain in the tail. And so that is why I strongly suggest against it if you can avoid it. Okay, let's see. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah. So I'm just going to add a form field on this poster. It doesn't make any sense for it to be there, but just so we can have it for an example. I'm going to select a text field and put it right here. So now when I send this out and share it with folks, then there is a fillable, editable text field right here that they can fill in. So that adds a form fields option over here in my toolbar. And you can see that it's got a field on page one and it's a text box number one. So to properly set this up, I'm going to go into properties and instead of calling it text one, we're going to call it first name. And then for the tooltip, we'll set that to the same thing. And we'll just leave that for now. Okay. Select that and resize that a little bit. Oh, okay. I'll get out of there. All right, so now I've got that form field, but when I click on my accessibility tags, you can see that it doesn't have any tagging for that form field, which means that a screen reader or assistive technology would not pick that up. So the easiest way to fix that is, let's see, I'm going to go to all tools over here on the left, prepare for accessibility, and then I'm going to stay away from that automatically tag PDF, right? Because I know I made a mess out of that. But I am going to use this automatically tag form fields. And so when I click on that, it's going to go through and automatically tag the form fields. And so then when I go back over to my accessibility tags, then come on. many things going here. Okay, let's try that again. I think it's giving up on me. Make sure I got everything set here. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay, so I did not tag those yet. Let's see. I'm gonna go back to my form fields panel over here. Maybe. Yeah, I really think it is kind of giving up on me. Let me save it and then I'll go out. Is there another question while I'm restarting this part?
So I just wanted to emphasize that we are at the hour, Ryan.
Okay.
So if people need to hop off, know that you can do that. We'll kind of keep this on for just a couple of more minutes while Ryan's kind of navigating this. I did put in the chat just as a reminder that as we end this element of this series, we will begin with our PowerPoint and presentation accessibility for May, June, and July, and that will start on May 21st. I gave a link to the AUCD website or page. Oh, thank you, Anna, where we have information related to that series. We do not have a registration link on there just yet, but that's where you'll be able to find it, as well as we will send out emails with all registration information. And Amy Reeser from University of Wyoming, who is also on the call right now. Hello, Amy, will be our presenter for this part of the series. So we're excited to jump in to continuing to broaden our skills related to accessibility. So if you have to jump off, we appreciate you being on and joining us today. And like I said, we'll stay on for a few more minutes, Ryan, if you wanted to do anything, or if there was another way that made sense to provide this information, we're also open to that.
Okay. Yeah, that might be a good idea because yeah, I restarted it and my Adobe PDF is just angry, and I think it's because I'm presenting and I have 3,000 windows open, and so I think that's part of the issue. Um, so that might be one, and I'm happy I can add something to the course handout about that, about kind of working with form fields and making sure they're tagged appropriately, and I'm happy to do that.
Perfect. There was one other question that was just a clarifying question, Ryan, that was in the chat, and it was, is pre-flight built into Adobe or is it an extension that we need to be downloading?
Okay, yes, Preflight is built into Adobe. And like I said, I will share on that handout. I'll get it on there in the next hour. I will include instructions for how to access Preflight, as well as once you're in there, like how to set up and use the profile that I created and was talking about. And I'll include a link to download that profile as well, so you can use it.
Awesome. Ryan, thank you so much. This has been fantastic. I know that I speak for everyone in that there's so many tools that we have received from these past 3 months, and I really appreciate all of the effort and energy that you have put into this and all of the resources that you've provided. So this has been fantastic.
Absolutely.
Thank you very
Make
much.
make sure you hold on to the link for that digital handout, because I feel like as you're going through these other accessibility courses, like the having those things, those basic fundamental kind of things, I think would be really helpful for everybody. Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll continue to share it out for sure.
Okay. And
Awesome.
if I can help in any way, again, feel free to send me an email. I am happy to jump on and do a video call or kind of help out by email and yeah, any way we
Awesome.
can help.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan.
All right.
Bye, everyone.